get started. We have some people that are getting our Wi-Fi up. So I just wanted to introduce myself while they're working on that. So my presentation is on the preliminary results of a study of Muslim, intra-Muslim ethnic relations. And so I'm the programming director of Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative. We are a human rights organization, and we focus on anti-racism within the Muslim community. And so there's a lot of different types of organizations that actually tackle racism, that tackle Islamophobia, which is the fear of Muslims, and also racism against Muslim groups. So like for instance in France, where many Muslims come from West Africa or North Africa, Middle East, Turkey. So that actually plays in the Islamophobia interplays with racism. And so likewise in America, so you have like xenophobia, anti-Black racism, anti-Arab racism, anti-South Asian racism. But within the Muslim community, we found that there were a lot of ethnic and racial divisions, and we wanted to address those, but also in tackling structural racism in American society and solidarity building, and so that the Muslim community, Muslim communities, because we have a lot of different types of communities, not just one monolith, to be able to dismantle certain perceptions of race and understand how does race play a part in American society. So this is my research team. So I'm the programming director. So I pretty much design the programming for the organization. So we have awareness campaigns. We also do online panels. We have elementary school programs. We have college programs, adult programs. Aimed at the Muslim community. So that includes Islamic schools, Muslim conventions, and mosques. And so that's like where we deliver our programming. And we also work with Muslim organizations like the Council of American Islamic Relations to work on their outreach to the diverse communities. And so, so I'll just give you a sense of like some of the other people, their responsibilities. So I helped design the survey. We began in March last year working on the survey. We talked with some people at Pew. We talked with some people, do you pronounce it Pew or Pew Research. So they're the kind of people, they may call your house, call your phone, and find out lots of information about you. I've never gotten a personal phone call from the Pew people. But they collect a lot of demographic information of different groups. And so I worked with some people from Pew and also some social science researchers who helped me develop the survey. It began as a needs assessment for our organization. Daniel Kowalski, he worked on the data analysis. So after we collected the data and it went into a spreadsheet, he worked on R. Does anybody ever use SPSS, R, statistical software? Well, it's a very helpful skill. So, if you happen to graduate learning that, there's my daughter, she makes a guest appearance, she popped out. We have Meryl Kosak, and she's worked on the qualitative analysis, and Hakeem Muhammad, he's also helped out with the qualitative analysis. So we're in the beginning stages of analyzing the data. So here's the beginning of our presentation. So this is the outline, and I'm going to go through this really, really fast. So apologies up front because that's a lot of information to cover, but I wanted to give you a sense of both the study and some of the problems that surround about like the research problem, and then we'll try to get into the discussion of the results and its implications in counseling Muslim students on campus. So this was a flyer right here of our study. Now this date is said January 9th. We actually extended the survey to January 18th because we had to get more representative demographics. So we needed to get some more Arab Americans, some Asian American Muslims, and Latino Muslims in our survey. So in the first part, I'll try to get through the introduction and talk about Muslim institutions and community building in North America. And then I'll talk about the methodology. Part 2, we'll talk about the results and discuss the results. I'll include some of the qualitative information, so we'll look at a couple of the pull-out quotes, and then we'll go into the quantitative analysis. And there's my daughter back there. And then we'll go into the conclusion. So I'll try to keep that short, and if you have particular questions, that'll be great. And if you don't, then we'll get out early. Okay, so the research problem is, what are the perceptions of inter-ethnic relations in North American Muslim communities? And so we use inter-ethnic because many people, we have a diverse group of Muslims. So the global Muslim population, so here the dark green is where you have countries that have the percentage of the population. So this is not numerical, but this is actually percentage-wise in Muslim majority countries. So here you have Guyana down here, and even in Argentina you have some Muslims, but here you have in the dark, like you have North Africa, East Africa, West Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Southeast Asia. Now there are actually more Muslims in India than in Pakistan. So Pakistan is a Muslim majority country, but there's more Muslims in India. Also, like 62% of Muslims come from Asia or Southeast Asia. And we're not talking, this precludes the Middle East. So the majority of Muslims live here. Okay, so the majority of Muslims probably speak Malay as opposed to Arabic. Africa has a large portion of Muslims. 15% of Muslims come from sub-Saharan Africa. The most populous Arab country is in North Africa. And probably, like you would say, 18% of Muslims are Arab. So the vast majority of Muslims are not Arab. Now, over the years, Muslims have engaged in ethnic conflict. And so I brought up some within the 20th century. So in 1971, you had the Bangladesh genocide. So there's hundreds of thousands of Bengali Muslims who were killed by West Pakistani Muslims. So that was a part of the split of their country. And people starved, and women were systematically raped. And so, this is intra-Muslim conflict. In Darfur, that's in Sudan, and so you had quote-unquote Arab Sudanese, so they're coming from the Nile Valley, who were at war and conflict with the people of Darfur who are non-Arab, even though both ethnic groups and Arab conceptions would be both black. Sudan actually means black in Arabic, and so it's kind of like black on black violence, but yet they're divided by ethnicity of Arabic speakers or Arab as an ethnicity, because Arab does not equate race. Arab is a linguistic category, so it's a linguistic cultural category, and that's something to be important, and that's why we call it inter-ethnic conflict. You have the persecution of Hazara in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now they are a Shiite minority, but they're also ethnically different. They speak Dari as opposed to Pashto. And so there's the persecution. Has anybody ever read the Kite Runner? Seen the movie?
Yeah.
So the boy, and then, you may have noticed, so one of the boys was Hazara, and the other boy was Pashtun. And so that conflict is still kind of going on. You still have the persecution, and even now in Pakistan, where the Sunni majority, and so you have extremists who actually attack the Hazara, and so, and blow up their mosques and everything. And you also have still the slavery, modern day slavery in Mauritania. And so Mauritania is an Arab country in West Africa, and so it is divided along the lines of Bidan, which means white, and Sudan, which means black, and that there's a caste of people who are in servitude towards some particular family lineages. And so these are kind of ethnic conflicts that are still going on, that still affect people's memories. And in fact, when people actually migrate to America, when they immigrate, some of these tensions still exist, where these people will not intermarry, they're from the same country, but they won't, they'll actually form different religious centers, and it could be, you can have some conflicts that could even affect how do people talk about things on campus. For instance, and also the other one I didn't mention was the Kurds and Arabs in Iraq. and also in Turkey. So if you have Turkish students and you mention Kurds, you may have some issues. Okay. Now I wanted to go into the demographics of Muslim Americans. And so these statistics come from the Council of American Islamic Relations, and you can see here, there's no real clear majority of Muslim Americans. So you have about 33% South Asian, 30% Black American, 25% Arab, 3% Sub-Saharan. You have European Muslims coming from Bosnia, Albania, Bulgarian Muslims, Russian, white American, not a lot of South Asian, Southeast Asian, even though they are probably like the majority of the Muslim population in the world. They haven't fit the kind of immigration patterns, and so you don't see a lot of representation. Caribbean Muslims coming from Trinidad, Guyana, Turkish, Iranian. Not sure about those numbers, but yeah, because there's like a lot of large Iranian communities. And you have Latino, Hispanic. The Latino community, I would say they're actually growing. Some figures would say they're about 6% now, and there's a lot of contention about these demographics. But I would say with these larger groups, pretty much this is kind of what people would say, about 30% South Asian, 30% Black American, 25 to 30% of each of these categories. Many of the Black American Muslims are coming from indigenous Americans, not meaning as indigenous as Native American, but being that they are descendants of slaves, and so Black Americans as an ethnicity are multiracial, majority from African who were forcibly migrated to America and mixed with Native American and European. And many of them had converted between the early 20th century to now. So you still have large populations, people who do convert. The largest conversion happened in 1975. And I won't get into that history, but this is still a significant portion. And in fact, the majority of native-born Muslim Americans would come from the Black American community. Then you have like the children of immigrants and immigrants from the South Asian and Arab communities. Now with this not being without having the majority kind of group, so with African Americans being significant, what types of kind of issues do you think would kind of happen within the Muslim American community? Any thoughts? You guys, you cheat. Any types of tensions can you imagine that happen between these groups?
Wouldn't some of the tensions that occur in the Latino or the Hispanic community kind of be reflected in the same tensions, like who got here first?
Yeah, so anybody know some of the history of the Catholic communities in America?
Spain.
So some Spain. Anybody what other ethnic groups are Catholic? Italian, another big one. Irish, Argentine, out here in California, the West Coast. Mexican. Any other ethnic group that may be Catholic? Puerto Rican, yeah. Filipinos. So do you feel like if we look at, some the early kind of Catholic organizations, so I went to Jesuit school, so this is why I know some of these things. So when the Catholic Church was establishing itself in Northern California, this is not Father Sarah, but early 20th century, a lot of it was Irish immigrants. And do you think that they were thinking about Mexican Americans? No. And how did they treat Mexican Americans? Poorly. Yeah. Yeah, just to be nice about it. And they weren't kind of really that concerned about those particular issues. So these are kind of conflicts that would be reflected within the American Muslim population.